Hello all, it's TerraZone Zero here once again, but this time with our very first questions and answers. And lucky for you guys, I'm going to be answering every single question that I got because there wasn't too many of them, so you all get to be acknowledged. Hey! So our first question is from Fusk. They ask, where can I find information about decks, packs, or updates? It's a very difficult question to answer right now. All throughout this year, TerraZone has been changing, and then we had to test it. Then we got some big critique about it, and then we had to go back and change it again. So because of that, things have been moving at snail's pace. On top of that, I, Draco, and Taitu all have our own jobs right now, of course, because that's how it is. Basically, there won't really be a place where you can check out decks, packs, or updates, or anything like that in a little while until we solidify the main gameplay. But our main source of attack right now is to release a computer game where you can play TerraZone. And it'll start off as a single-player adventure where you interact with NPCs and things like that, just so that people can actually get their hands on the game in some way and play it. So that's going to be the starting point. And then we have plans for what if it works out, we'll go to the next level, and then we'll go to the next level. Something like that. Alright, we got our next one. It's from Twilus, the Random Number God. And that guy changes his name all the time. Are you still salty about losing to Speedo Weejee in Brawl Plus and getting Bowser-sided in 4?
Defeated!
Okay. First one. I pretend that never happened. That just never happened. Second, yeah, Bowser side is stupid. And you should feel bad. Alright. Although, try doing that to me again, and we'll see what happens in Smash Ultimate. Next, we have Justin LPer asks, have you played rhythm games before? If so, what's your favorite? I haven't really played too many rhythm genre games. The closest thing that I played a lot of was Dance Dance Revolution back in high school. That's rhythm-based, at least it's with your feet, match the arrows on the screen as you're listening to cool dance music and, that sort of thing. That's about the closest. I tried one Miku Miku, not really Miku Miku Dance, but like a Miku-based game that was a bit rhythm-based. I ended up buying it for the PS4, and then it didn't work. So I got to play very little of that. Next, OIO asks, what's your mindset when creating card effects? What's the most complex effect you've made for a card? My mindset for creating card effects is basically, what does the affinity do? So in this case, Earth does this, or Wind does this. We make effects based on the general idea of what the affinity is supposed to accomplish. For instance, Wind likes to move cards around, so we make effects that move cards around. Of course, at the same time, you don't want to be too repetitive with the effects. You don't want this guy to do the same exact thing as this guy, because if you have that, then the two, it's literally just who do I like more visually. We also, or at least I, try big time not to make anything overly broken or overly useless. I like things to be somewhat in the middle. Like this might not be as good as this other card, but at least this card has a use, and someone could build a deck with this card as a tech option, or their deck's unique way of working is with this card. So I keep those things usually in mind. So I guess just to sum up my thoughts, not an overly broken effect, not a overly weak effect, and I keep in mind like what the creature is in terms of what it might do. As far as what's the most complex effect you've made for a card, that's a hard question to answer just because given the giant history this game has, which could be a whole video in and of itself, honestly, and if there's enough interest I can go more in depth about it. But I guess in terms of the TerraZone era, let's see. I'm not actually sure. Most of my effects are pretty simple. I don't try to, at least in the beginning, I try to keep all the effects really simple. And like, you know, 1 or 2 liners or something like that. Like, because as the game evolves, that's when effects get more lengthy and more like Cyberjar length effects, as I like to call them, will probably happen. Although in TerraZone, I'll try not to get that crazy with the card text. Sid Mango asks, does it Djent? I don't know. We're going to have to get a musical expert in on that one because I don't really know. I guess we'll have to see what somebody else thinks of it. I don't know. Paratriad asks, 1. How do you choose what themes you want to design with for TerraZone, animals, objects, etc.? Basically, I try to make everything different. It's a little similar to the card effects, where I try to make everybody look different enough from each other, so it's not like, oh, Dragon Girl looks too much like Vortex Maiden, for instance. Like, oh, I'll give her the same blonde hair and the same hairstyle and the same dress, you know. Then it looks very samey. So, you know, to use those two as an example, I was like, all right, Dragon Girl, she's got bangs, long blonde hair, really squinty eyes, got the fangs, like the pink dress, you know. Vortex Maiden, okay, she's got like the sandy brown hair with the head decorations, and she has 2 ponytails coming out. Face looks completely different. Even like gestures somewhat too. Like Dragon Girl's got a bit more of a cocky personality, I guess. And then Vortex is all like, I will save you, you know, all like cute like that. I don't know. So I mostly, in terms of that, just kind of think of those sort of things. On top of that, I think, okay, we have 1 snake. Let's do a dragon. Let's do a dog. Let's do a cat. Like, I try to take different species based on the world, or something completely surreal and crazy and wacky. It's all about playing with shapes. It's all about playing with ideas, basing things off of real life, you know, that sort of thing. That's generally what I do in terms of, like, my creative processes to, like, what is this thing? And sometimes things just come out of complete nowhere. Like, I'll be completely honest with you. When you just come up with stuff all the time, like, a lot of the time it's random. I'll just get like a stupid idea out of nowhere, and I'll be like, hey, that's cool, and I'll like write it down and like save it for later or something like that. And their second question, when the initial wave of cards are released, will there be starter decks? How many? Yes, we will have like our first main set that has, like, you know, all the cards you've been seeing for years, and there'll be like something like 2 starter decks probably. That's always a good number, because then one person can have a different deck than another person, and then like, you know, my deck versus yours, whose is better, you know, that sort of thing. It might be like protagonist deck and rival deck, or it could be elemental based, where it's an earth starter deck and a wind one. That we're not entirely sure of just yet. But yes, the plan is there'll be a set 1, like a main set 1, and then there'll be like 2 starter decks, and then we'll just keep going from there, basically. Greaves asks, how do you know when you've gone too far with a design? I'm not completely sure if you mean the art design of the card, or you mean the effect design of the card, so I guess I'll answer both. Art design, personally, I don't like adding a million little details in one picture. I feel like it's too busy, there's too much to look at, and like, it almost feels like it's trying too hard. Like, I'll give you a good example. Let's say, like, Chaos Breaker Dragon in Cardfight Vanguard. He's got all these random little veins and weird things all over his body and red marks and stuff. It's so busy and it's so much to look at. And his head is like this small. It's just like, I don't know. That stuff kind of bugs me. So in terms of art design, it's pretty much just adding too many details, too many unnecessary details. I kind of like to simplify things, keep things more on the cartoony side. I mean, that's just a preference, because, you know, art is subjective. if you mean card effect design, that's probably dependent on like if the card is doing way too much on its own. Like this one card like pilots everything, then it's kind of like, all right, maybe that's a little too good because, you know, you're so dependent on this one card, and if you don't draw it, like you don't win the game or something like that. That could be in a way if that's taken a bit too far. Also, going back to the whole giant wall of text Cyberjar length effect, like that's also, in my opinion, taking it too far because the card does way too much stuff, and it could be good or bad. It just does way too much stuff. So like, what does that do? And then you spend like 2 minutes reading it, and then if the text is this much smaller, it's just even harder and takes even longer to understand it. So yeah, probably like in terms of art design and in terms of card effect design, that's probably where I would say it would be going too far for it. Warm Hearts asks, any chance you can do another demo with kids next year? That'll be completely dependent on where our game is. I think by next year we'll finally be in a good spot where, you know, we've already been to the big professional event where like we had real like game enthusiasts trying our game out and basically told us everything that could be wrong with it. And our main idea overall from everyone seemed solid. Everyone was like, you know, this is a very solid game. Here's some things to make it better. And we've already started incorporating those things that can make it better, and it has absolutely made it better. So it's quite possible that next year I'll get into contact with all the people that have tried the game out already and be like, all right, so here's where the game is now. Tell me what you think of it now. So yep, very possible. We can get into contact with you once we're in a good spot. Yennefer asks, have you ever played Card Wars? I assume you mean Adventure Time Card Wars, and yes, I have played it. It reminds me a lot of an old draft that I had of TerraZone. I'm sure you remember, because you and I used to play all the time. Official Cards at Home asks, when you first took TerraZone to a convention, what drove you to actually go through with it? And what advice would you give to any other creator out there in order to get out there and do the same? When I first took TerraZone to a convention, I just had it in my mind to just share the game with people that have similar interests. So people going to like an anime convention or a game convention might be pleasantly surprised to see like a homemade trading card game, indie trading card game there. And they're like, oh, how does this work? And then they'll sit down and play it. And we've had like several dozens of people already try the game randomly at these conventions just because we've been to a few of them. And we always manage to get like, I don't know, somewhere around like 7 people every time to like sit down and try it. And that way we just gather the opinions. So overall, what drove me to do it? I just said, let's do it. I mean, I know it's kind of a lame answer, but really in life, that's just kind of how it is. You just have to be like, all right, I'm going to go do this. And then you just go in. Don't fear it. Don't be afraid. Just push right on forward and just go ahead and try. Because it's also a case of, like, what is there to lose? Because it's just like, I'm going to go to a convention, I'm going to have fun, and going to meet all sorts of people, and we've met people that are sticking around and, you know, staying in contact with us, checking out what we're doing, so it's definitely not been a waste. We've met all sorts of people doing it and got all sorts of opinions, and that's why we're here where we are right now. Because if you just stay at home and just play it with your local friends, you're going to be told the same exact thing over and over and over again, and you won't get different opinions. So by meeting different people, you'll get different opinions, and your game will just continue to grow. And as for what advice would you give to any other creator out there in order to get out there and do the same, I sort of already said it. Just go for it. Just go for it. You've got nothing to lose. You've got all these people that you can meet that might, you know, you just struck a chord with them and they'll immediately be interested in what you're doing. And, you know, they'll stick around. You'll keep updating them. You'll take into account all the advice that was given to you, and you'll just grow. You'll just continue growing because, you know, like I said before, if you just stay at home and do nothing, you're not going to get anywhere. And then last but not least, we have a question from nrondo37. What is your ultimate goal for the game, and how do you plan to attain that goal? The ultimate goal for the game is to establish TerraZone as a franchise in some way, shape, or form. Whether that be it's well known for the game itself, or it's well known for the comic series that I've still been working on with my brother and do plan to eventually release on Webtoons. As long as it's an established franchise that a number of people have some sort of enjoyment, get some sort of enjoyment out of it, I will feel like I've accomplished my goal. Like we tell the story, we finish it, we have cards, people play the game, metagames evolve and change, and they're like, this deck is the greatest, no, this deck's the greatest. Or even we have those like people that are really enthusiastic and go, oh, Destiny Dragon's my avatar, yeah. Like, just to see people interact with this franchise, play this franchise, and be excited about it is my goal. Like, just it just being out there. And I guess ultimately we finish the story as well, because that's a story that's been written for years and years and years and years. And then the last part, how do you plan to attain that goal? As I said before, just keep going, just keep pushing forward. I mean, we're moving at a snail's pace right now. In all honesty, it's really frustrating, and it makes me really mad that we're moving at this really slow pace. Like, I almost wish that I waited a little while before starting to do all this stuff to like settle in life, get a job that I just stay at, like where I am right now, not start the business up just yet. I wish I waited, but I didn't, and I gotta live with the fact that that's what's going on right now. So all I can say to everybody else and how I'm going to obtain this goal that I have in mind is just to keep pushing forward. Even if it takes like 50 years or something, I'm just going to keep going, because I ran away from this project once before, and it came and it bit me in the rear, and it just kept saying, no, keep going. And I was just like, no, I don't want to. And then like by the end of the time, I was just like, oh, it's just going to keep coming back. So I have just been sticking with it, and I plan to continue sticking with it. I've said this multiple times in videos in the past, but it's absolutely true. Even if I'm moving at the slowest pace in the world, I'm going to keep going. Just going to keep pushing forward. Because I feel like I met just the right people that are there for me and are going to keep moving along with me, and that fill in the gaps that I can't fill myself. So overall, just going to keep pushing forward. That's how I'm going to obtain this goal. Anyway, guys, I believe I got all the questions. Yes, I did. So thank you for submitting questions. These are really fun videos to make, and I plan to make more in the future. So as the audience grows, I will probably make a questions and answers too. And I will try every single time to answer every question given to me, because I know how it feels when somebody's like, I'm going to do a questions and answers video, and they don't answer your question, and they just answer like, I don't know, like 10 other people, and they ignore like 40 people or whatever. Of course, unless it gets like crazy and I get 100 questions, then I'm like, all right, sorry, I have to trim this down a little bit. But for now, I'm going to answer every question given to me. That'll be that. We might have a few more videos by the end of the year. This whole FTC COPPA thing is really like nobody knows what's going on. But we're probably going to more than likely stay on the channel and keep going, so don't worry about that. Anyway, guys, that about wraps it up. Stay tuned for more TerraZone content.